y'all know I've said that there's nothing lonelier than being with a man who doesn't see you. The only other thing lonelier is being friends with people that you're performing for and can't be yourself. Okay? It is way less lonely to be completely alone than to have to do all this. Which is one reason why I say I don't really care about the male loneliness crisis, because we just won't date them. But honestly, we are less alone when we're totally alone than when we're with men who don't see us as human beings, don't see us at all, don't care, don't love us, and literally just extract labor and a bunch of stuff from us, but literally center themselves. However, this relationship dynamic of having friends that you can't be real with is just as lonely. Okay, so I want to talk about how this plays out in friendship, because this right here is my idea of hell. Okay, I grew up in the South in the United States. This is what white women's relationships will become if we are fall in line. Okay, it is a bunch of white women hanging out together, policing ourselves and policing each other, and comparing and competing and performing and not being real. And instead, like, antagonizing, being passive aggressive, being super judgmental, and all being miserable. All of us. This is not exclusive to the South, okay? I'm just saying, I know this is all wherever. This is really extreme in the culture that I grew up in. And part of that is because in the US, it's like ground zero for like white supremacy culture, okay? Again, it exists all over, but it's very extreme there. And this is also not to say that if you are a white woman living in the South, that you are doing this, that you don't have friends, that you're lonely. I am not saying that at all. I am just saying that this is what it is pushed so hard for women to center men, for women to basically self-abandon and to serve men, right? We got to perform all this crap for them, right? And then police each other. And then also police everybody else, especially anyone in the Black community, right? Like, we're like Karens, we're cops, right? But we do it to ourselves also, right? We do it to each other also. But of course, the consequences for people we have power over are going to be like deadly, right? But this is what we do, right? And this is why, like, and it's tied into like purity culture and misogyny and patriarchy and all of these things, right? And the hierarchy. One of the most liberating things that I have been continuing to do, because this is a lifelong journey, man, is to stop performing. I mean, I'm a literal performer, right? Like, I'm going to go on stage and tell stories and whatever, but like, that's one of the reasons why I loved storytelling, because I just get to like talk about my life and be myself, right? And I honestly think one of the reasons why I became a storyteller is because of growing up in a home where there was a big secret, like several, but one big one that almost killed me, And then I grew up in a society that forced me to also like, contain it was like living in a straitjacket. And my husband, when he went to the South, he was there for 5 days. 5 days in the South. He's French, okay? And he was like, the quiet violence, the silent violence of policing that goes on, especially among white women, and we, not just among us, but that we do. It's this air, it's this energy, right? And he literally goes, I feel like I'm going crazy. I feel like I'm wearing a straitjacket. I feel like I'm not allowed to be angry here. Like, and yet it feels so violent. Like he was completely losing it. I'm not saying that passive aggressiveness and stuff like doesn't exist in France. Of course it does. But in general, this is very direct. Communication here is very direct. If you don't want something, you say no. No. Yeah. In the South, there's like 8 ways of saying no without ever saying no. There's like, and you gotta translate all of it. There's all this body language and inflections in the voice, and there's facial. You got to read so much, and it is translating, right, constantly. And it was so liberating when I first moved to New York, where people are like, "Fuck you," and I was like, And when here, people are like, "No." Instead of being like, well, I mean, maybe, or la 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 la, right? But the violence of self-policing, crushing yourself. And men do this to themselves all the time. This is one reason why they're so jealous of us. This is the reason why they're so violent towards us. This is one of the reasons, because they are doing that. This is what, patriarchy makes them do to themselves, is to crush out their spirit, all of their empathy, all of their sensibility, all of that, right? And they're so pissed because they're living in this straitjacket too. It just looks different, right? But it's violent. It's so violent. I felt so seen. I felt like I understood what I have known my whole life, but I couldn't put words to until this French man is in my home country, my home state, and is like, I feel like it would be less violent if women, here would just punch me in the face. If they just punch me in the face, it would feel less violent than smiling while bullying. And I was like, thank you so much. You get it. So I want to talk about their friendship in terms of how empty it is. I know this is not just among white women, okay? I'm just talking about white women because I have grown up in a very extreme version of whiteness. And also want to point out that I learned so much of this and understood so much of this from listening to Black women especially, right? Delusional influencer, white woman whisperer especially. Also reading books, like literally just reading and reading other people's point of view and the experience on the receiving end of this when you're not white. Like really, like the same way I tell men, if you really want to understand yourself, like listen to women. We understand y'all. We may not have your lived experiences, but we have to know you so well so that we don't die, right? And so anybody who's on the receiving end of violence from white women, and they could be white people too, because that whole Karen, right, is like, Karen isn't just Karen. By the way, that is a very historical word. Please don't have to argue my comments about Karen. Basically, white men ruined that word. Now it doesn't really mean anything because white men just use it as a way to be misogynistic, right? But we police other people, right? If we, and as somebody who, I was a server, I like worked, at pizza place. I've worked and yeah, I've had a lot of white women punish me for what their husband's doing. Okay. So this is like part of it is being very male centered, but especially white male centered. A lot of, white women will go out into the world and perpetuate that cycle of violence, but on people who have nothing to do with it, right? Who definitely don't deserve it, right? We're just innocent bystanders. But that's how the cycle of violence is completed, right? Because we don't take it out on the men who are like terrorizing us in our own homes, right? If we don't face that awful truth of the men who love us and what they're doing, if we don't face that, we end up terrorizing other people. We end up at war with ourselves. It is such a violent way to live. Even if you were just, even if you're like Parker Posey, that woman is like one of the most violent people on that show. But she's just like, she can do it without saying or doing anything. Even her look can be like, bam, right? Now, as much as we've been talking about her and how these looks that she gives, they say so much. She is the same thing. She does the same thing, but they're all doing the same thing. They just have different weapons. So for instance, this woman got to be the nice one, the perfect one. She's not the most beautiful one, but she's a winner, right? Even though she, admitted to vote, whatever. The whole deal. Straight to the alt-right, although maybe kind of like alt-right light, but she's, voted for, And this scene right here is, look at her face, y'all. As much as she, she literally plants seeds, but she loves to pit Jaclyn and Laurie against each other. This is her declaration of war right here. And look at that face. Right before she drops the ball that she knows is gonna set Laurie off, she's like, well. So Kate just drops this bomb, right? And that expression of like throwing rocks and hiding your hand, this is it. Because I think her ego is all about, just being perfect and being a little peacekeeper, She's not a diva like Jaclyn. She's not a loser like Laurie. She's like the perfect one. You know, she's performing white womanhood really well. Actually, all of them are. They're just like a different version of this and how it plays out. And Laurie was like, now this woman was just having breakfast. She didn't need to know about Valentine. She was in a lovely mood. You know, they had a really wild night the night before. She was, you know, like got to dance all. She got to let loose. She got to just, I mean, she's also a drunk. The actress has said in interviews, and I may go over some interviews in a minute of the way she's described her character, but she's, you know, she's got a lot of problems she's not facing herself. And she's like the truth teller, you know, she's the career woman, but it's not being based on her face, right? She's the honest one. She's like cool. But really, you know, she's got a lot of issues and is in a lot of denial. And like all of them, and like women are taught to do in general, is compare ourselves to each other, right? I mean, we're all taught this, not just women, obviously. But these gender binaries are very strict, right? Which is also tied to white supremacy, by the way. And if you do not follow this creator, I learn more about gender from them than anybody. But there's this really clear distinction between men and women, and they're very visual distinctions especially. And all of those go back to the history of colonization, like what we're dealing with right now. And white supremacy especially. And they gave this example of the right to wear pants. Back in the day, women couldn't wear pants because white men said that they're going to descend into savagery. And so why am I talking about this? Is that even though a lot of the standards are contradictory, they don't make sense, and they basically all serve whatever is convenient to men at the time. Like, we can wear pants now and like make money, but now men are hobos, right? So it's like working out for them. They're like, yeah, keep your pants, go out, make all the money. I'll just play games all day and gamble your money and drink it away and not parent the kids that I impregnated you, made you have, and then collect palimony when this ends and I cheat on you. During the Second World War. Okay, go out, make bombs, yay, Rosie River. And soon as that's over, go back. Now you're a trad wife. Now you can't leave the house, right? So patriarchy moves like water. It just changes form that's convenient to keep men in power. The same thing with white supremacy culture, right? And so these ideas are, these gender norms are policed. And all of this, and especially in the South, this is why I keep talking about the South, is patriarchy in the South is rooted in white supremacy, but especially anti-blackness, right? Because the whole economy, the whole world revolved around exploiting, stealing the labor of enslaved people, right? And rape, just torture. And so for white women to be, to be like white women be soft, to draw a distinction why some women, black women, are out doing all this work, right? So, okay, wait, women can work, they can do all this. Okay, so then the white woman, there's a reason why these binaries exist. And all roads lead back to, anti-blackness, usually in the United States. And so this is one reason why I talk about gender so much, is that you can't talk about patriarchy and gender without also understanding the history of colonization and white supremacy, and especially in the US. That's our foundation, right? And so white women have a very strict code, right? We have to be, like the way that men, their idea of masculinity is defined by not being women. White women's femininity historically was rooted in not being black, right? That's what these tropes. If you and please go look this up. This is super important. I'm not the person to learn all this from. I'm just tying it into my lesson around these friendships and these white women. This is such a lonely, soulless way to live, and it's about performing. It's about performing and self-abandoning and not even being whoever you are or want to be, because you gotta stay in line. And if you don't stay in line, if you don't police yourself and stay in line, then you are an outcast. And if you do stay in line, you better make sure all these other people stay in line too, because the hierarchy has to exist for these power structures to play out. So shots fired. I'm not in this war, but I'll just throw a grenade over there and be like, you guys do get out, right? She's like, well, it looks like there's a little sleepover last night. She's so confused, right? And this morning, who do I see? I mean, she is having so much fun telling this, like, spilling the tea, telling these juicy details of this gossip, because that's the pact. They can all talk crap about each other behind each other's back, right? And yet it's awful knowing that when you are talking crap about, and I'm not saying gossip is not always bad, by the way. Gossip has been a part of women being able to share information, warn each other about stuff. But the way it is used with these friends is to police each other, to maintain the order, like it is used for really terrible reasons. But it's also rooted in like wanting to connect with each other. You know what I mean? Like, they're all so lonely. They are all so lonely. And yet they don't know how to be real with each other. They don't know how to connect on a heart level. They don't, because they have to perform. And if one of them stops performing and falls out of line, the whole group is like, and it creates chaos. So she wants to connect with Laurie over talking crap and spilling secrets about them, and they can have a little laugh and move on with their day. I mean, look at the way she's telling the story, y'all. She's like, this is like her like, look at her face. She's devastated by this because she has very low self-esteem in the moment. She's going through a divorce. She, got to let loose the night before, but like she has her own issues, right? And then she hears that like the pretty one was like she felt betrayed, right? Some of that is based on her own low self-esteem, but part of it is also like, yeah, what the hell? Felt like betrayed by this woman who's trying to push her to do something and then went to, and also their long history. Look. She, despite her face being this, she is like this. Oh my God. And so she's just like, wait, what? Yeah. And she's loving this. And she's just, like, and then we get this. She notices that Laurie's now upset. And she's like, right? She's not just upset, she's pissed and goes in on her. You see how crazy this is? She hasn't changed at all. And now she's getting uncomfortable. Because even though she knew that it would upset Laurie, she didn't think that Laurie would be as confrontational. She thought that Laurie was just going to gossip and talk crap and be upset, but contain her rage as white women are supposed to do until we can't anymore. And again, when we have all these resentments going on, when we are performing, we are, like squashing any part of us that's real, and especially any anger at things that are legitimately not fair. We don't want to deal with those things and look at what's really going on in here. That is when we become a menace and a danger to anyone we have power over, right? So then she keeps going. It's sad, she's aging actress. And this is her ego. Her ego being like, and like, look at her. She keeps going. Oh, she just lives for male attention. It's one thing when you're 25, but you're 45. She just keeps going. It's pathetic. I didn't think you were going to care so much. Girl, you knew she was going to care this much. You just thought she would contain it more. You thought she'd play by the rules. But you knew this was a risk. You wanted to create tension. You wanted to create, but you also wanted her to do it within the boundaries of the fighting that happens. You wanted them to white women each other, but not cross the line. Do you know what I mean? Because she didn't want her to get so upset that she's going to make her life too hard. She wanted basically to get closer to Jaclyn by pitting them against each other, right? Now remember, there's also a really interesting dynamic in that Jaclyn's paying for all this. And I haven't really seen too many people talking about this. I mean, I'm sure people are. But there creates something very uncomfortable a lot of times when somebody who's more successful is paying for you. Now, even though like there's a way for that to happen and it not be weird, they also like they know each other very well. And because of their dynamic, they are both kind of, they are like the entourage of Jaclyn. She paid for it. She, you got to be kiss the ring a little bit. You got to be grateful that she's paying for you to come here because you're still beneath her. She's the pretty one. She's the rich one, or, rich, relatively speaking to them. So they all have this thing where they have like a triangulation. These two against the rich one who's paying. The other, Kate and Jaclyn, against Laurie, the loser, the one who's like a lawyer and whatever, like just different. And then Laurie and Jaclyn against her, the Republican, the anti-feminist, like, and then of course she does the classic passive aggressive, oh, I don't care. But then it's like, yeah, but still keeps going on, cutting her food aggressively. I just thought you were going to laugh about it. So we all know what it's like for someone to do this. They're going to tell you something, they know it's going to upset you. And when it upsets you, they're like, well, I thought you were going to laugh about it. Yeah, I'm laughing. Funny. But also, and this is when she realizes that maybe she created too much conflict because now she is and this is, it's like she knew what she was doing, but she was expecting Laurie to stay in line, bitch, you know? So at the pool, when she's all like, I'm gonna say something, because she was giving some attitude. Why? Why do you have to? No, we don't actually say things out loud. We do passive aggressiveness. We do little jabs. We talk behind each other's back. No, you can't have open conflict, which again is one of the tenets of white supremacy culture. I think there's 15 tenets or whatever. Is that right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have the picture in front of me, but one of them is fear of open conflict. This was a big one for me. I still am uncomfortable, but I make myself do it. And she's like, no, not open conflict. And then she's like, it just feels fake. And then that's the truth. Like their whole relationship is fake. That's part of it. It's performing. It's doing something. But then it is fake. And now that she's actually saying it out loud, Kate's like, no. One person's fake is another person's, good manners. There it is. There it is, y'all. Oh my God, look at him in his little car. Look at his ear right there. So when she does confront Jaclyn on it, she's like, it's not like I care. I don't care about Valentine. I'm just curious, which is total BS. Whatever, Laurie, you're not just curious. You're obviously mad about something. So she's calling her out on being passive aggressive. Otherwise, you wouldn't be coming at me like this. And then she does this. This is her declaring war on Kate and Jaclyn. Because now she's like, all right, you triangulated, you pitted me up. You started this war between us. I'm going to start a war between y'all now. You started this, girl. Look at her face. Her face. While she's saying basically, hey, your girl here is a snitch. She did some really great acting. They all did. All of them did. Her facial expressions, like Parker Posey's in this, are just perfect. And then she's like, it's just funny. It's funny. Again, another passive aggressive thing. And all this leads to this conversation where they all are hearing Laurie say it straight to their face. They're saying it to each other's faces. Although Kate is still being like, trying to be the nice one, the peacekeeper. Let these two duke it out. And she brings up, whatever, you're miserable because of your career and you married a loser and that didn't work out either. And look at her. Like, again, you threw gasoline on teen little embers. And there were a lot of embers, but you were like, and now you're like, oh. Watch out for women like this. They are going to cause so much drama. Watch out for all, you know what I mean? They're all doing something very unhealthy. And she says, right, are you life's victim or are you doing it to yourself? And then she jumps on board because she does, at the end of the day, she can't really side with Laurie because remember who paid for this trip, right? And she, kind of worships Jaclyn a little bit. So at the end of the day, she may, stick up for Laurie a little bit. But at the end of the day, she's always going to side with Jaclyn. And then even though she started it, she's going to be like, what are you doing? Why are you antagonizing her? And Laurie's like, look, I'm not like you. And then she does a Piper face. Parker Posey. Piper, no. And then, of course, she goes to Jaclyn, she's drunk. And Jaclyn's like, bitch, you are like, screw you. Gossiping about me. So when it comes to this friendship, there's a lot of people who are like, oh my God, what is this? Please let this kind of friendship never find me. This is a take that I saw. Y'all might hate this White Lotus take, but Laurie's monologue was a reminder that long-term relationships aren't always going to serve you. The people close to you will see you at your worst, and you will see them at theirs. There's a difference between pretending that you're perfect all the time and allowing each other to be imperfect, but loving each other unconditionally nonetheless, because the other bullshit doesn't matter. And I saw this take a while ago, and I think it was so spot on, that one of the things that Mike White does very well is that he can see whiteness. And so you can see it in his writing. And it's not just with these three, right? We see it all over this show. And especially that they're in Thailand, and it's like the way the colonizer mindset and watching it play out in Thailand gives a whole, you're going to see it so much more extreme than like when they were in Italy. Like you see the violence of it, even if it is like quiet kind of violent. You see it between the women. You see it, the fact that they wanted this woman to stop him from a mass unaliving. Are you kidding me? It's not her job. And you cannot stop a man from doing that. I really liked this take, and I can actually go into this more. Let me know if y'all want it. First of all, let me know if you got this far. Let's see. Mo's flipped over in his car. Because I think one of the reasons why I appreciated this season a lot is because I used to live in Taos, New Mexico for quite a while. And then I also worked in like the outdoor community and, kind of lived around a lot of like white hippie-ish people, and I was kind of doing that, I lived that life, and I realized that there's a lot of lost souls with a lot of trauma who are searching. And in Taos, I love Taos. But the worst things that have ever happened to me happened in that town, because there's a lot of like really sick people who go to Taos to try to heal something, and they get there and they get worse. They do not heal anything. In fact, they spiral. So almost every person that I know who has died not of natural causes was in Taos from something unbelievably violent in this like peaceful spiritual place. So let me know if you want that video. This is a take I kind of agree with. I mean, I do think that Laurie is really seeing these friendships for what they are. I just hope that she seeks out deeper friendship, right? Like, I think her speech at the end was like her just recognizing, like, you know what, the way I see it is like, they're kind of like family, you don't choose your family. You don't, you end up just experiencing life's moments with some other people that you just happen to be related to, and they very much shape you in those formative years. But at the same time, one of the reasons why a lot of people go no contact, other than like straight up abuse and stuff like that, is a lot of times family members will not let you evolve. The moment the plane, the wheels of the plane hit, the runway, and Anthony saw me do this momentarily when I went home. He was like, where did Melanie go? Who is this? He was like scared how I just regressed into this child for a moment, and then I had to like pull on my big girl pants and be an adult. And it was a very healing experience for me to have to practice being Melanie here, over there, back where I grew up. It's so easy to go in old patterns. And so I think what's happening with them is very relatable, not just in friend group, but what people experience in their own family. A lot of family don't see your progress. They don't see you, who you are, like, other than what they know. And, there's people in my family who couldn't imagine me being a performer, who don't know this version of me, right? Because they've never seen a show. They've never watched me online, and would be shocked that this is who I have become, a family that I haven't seen in a really long time, right? And so I do think it's sometimes, just like having friends from your past, I think it's important as long as they're not like really toxic, but also new friendships are great. But if you have to give up who you are to be around people from your past, that's when it becomes problematic, like staying anchored to who you are right now. When you go hang out with people from your past, that is one of the most challenging things. And it's also super rewarding when you're able to do it, right? And then of course you're always going to backslide a little bit. Like, I'm still learning it, but I'm like so different because I'm able to maintain who I am now, even when I'm around people that have never seen this version of me. I've been away from the US for like 8 years now, almost 8 years. That's a long period of time. I'm 47. So if Laurie is like, if she can hang out with these women and appreciate who they are, also like not completely lose herself, and also go and seek out relationships where she can be who she needs to figure out who she is. She's drinking so much and is so attached to her career and all these other things. She's lost, and it seems like she's got some work to do on herself. And Piper is on the fast track to being one of those three ladies. She's not going to straight up be her mom. She's going to be one of those women. And falling in line and performing one of these, there she becomes like a Laurie who still plays by the rules, but then like is like kind of the, the rebel of the rule players, or straight up becomes Victoria. They're still all very like lonely ways to live. So I just want to go over a little bit. Actually, there's more I want to say, because I actually think her experience as a mother on this show says a lot about our society. Let me know if you want that video too. She talks about how, Laurie finally what? I think it's almost time for dinner. Laurie finally gets hers, but it doesn't come without humiliation, right? She doesn't get Valentine. I mean, she could have, but she doesn't. So she hooks up with that other dude. I already did a video on that. Ends up having to jump out a window and gets like smacked by another woman. So she says that Laurie is really good at calling out other people. She has not been good about taking responsibility for her part in it, and I absolutely agree. People who love you the most can also hurt you the most. They are probably people who actually do see you. So ultimately, they do really know each other. They may not know them in their new environment, but they know like some of their oldest interpersonal conflicts or their biggest struggle. Although they may not be aware of new struggles though, right? I think it's good to have people from like long-term friends, like maybe at least a couple, and then new friends, and then somewhere in the middle. You really understand your journey and who you are and who you used to be and all. Like, it's just, I don't know, I think it's healthy. In this interview for Harper's Bazaar, and she talks about one of the problems in their friendship is that a lot of them are not really being authentic, and they're being reactive instead. They keep up their performance. Exactly what I was talking about. No relationship can survive that lack of honesty. And it's not just lack of honesty with each other, it's honesty with yourselves. And she thinks that that's one of Laurie's biggest problems, is her inability to be honest with herself. And I didn't even realize until I read this interview that Laurie is an alcoholic. Like, I didn't notice really that she does always have a drink in her hand. She says, I don't think you can continue to be an alcoholic and live a fully examined life. Those things do not really go together. Her life is falling apart and she's not able to be honest about it. And then she's also not being honest about the fact that she drinks all the time to avoid dealing with the pain of her life falling apart and just not going the way she thought it would be. And then she also talks about how, just also coming to terms with your age. Because at this age, she has all these responsibilities. Just go on this trip and hook up and get drunk and all that stuff without paying a huge price, right? And if anybody who's in their 40s or older, and I've heard that it's way harder if you're a mother, is that your body doesn't process alcohol and stuff as well. I don't drink, and I haven't in like over 20 years. But just things like sleep or what I eat, things that I used to just be, you pay a huge price, your body does, with, for right now, especially because of perimenopause, being overstimulated, right? With noise or smells or anything. It takes me a while to recover from that. Where in the past, I used to literally live off of being overstimulated. Now it exhausts me. She also calls herself out. She says, she says to Kate, I can't be like you. I'm just honest. Now that's an excuse that she's using to be able to offer up her criticisms without consequence. She just gets to land these little barbs and then like, I'm just being honest with you. So again, she's doing the same kind of warfare like Kate, but it just looks different. Even though it may not be the whole truth, or she's not considering her part in it. She doesn't take responsibility for her part in it when she does that. I agree. And then when they're asking about the Valentine's thing, she said, but Laurie didn't go for it. And that is true. Like she came so close and clearly, but she stopped herself. And then when she saw what she missed, she went out and got it from that other Russian and got humiliated doing. Like I've said, I have nothing against hookup. Y'all know I've written articles about hookups. I do think it's very dangerous for a lot of women, but at the same time, you will never convince me that hooking up with dudes is any more dangerous than dating them. Because I've hooked up with a lot of dudes, and none of them were as dangerous as the one that I actually was like fell for and dated. But I will say this, I'm never going to encourage women to just go hook up, right? Because especially if you're really cut off from your intuition and you don't, whatever. Talked about this before. But if you're going out, and this is I had to learn the hard way, if you're going out to hook up because of an insecurity, jealousy of your friend, because you're feeling, and I have a whole story I've told before about it. I almost hooked up with like 4 dudes while Anthony was out of town when we first started dating. Myself that he was like, I convinced myself that he was like on Tinder looking at at women. And I was actually on one on Tinder because I always assumed he was, that I was out there looking for because I felt really insecure and I felt vulnerable. And I was like, well, I'm sure he's going to screw this up. So why don't I just screw it up first? And luckily I talked to people who know me well, and they're like, Melanie, that is not what Anthony's doing. Like even some of my guy friends were like, dude, that is not Anthony. And I was like, oh, you're right. What is this? And I was like, oh, it's me. So when you are trying to go hook up or do something, like hook up especially, and you're not coming from a place of it really being like fun and light or like whatever, and you're trying to like put a band-aid on something much bigger, that's when you end up doing walks of shame. Okay. And luckily I paused long enough to talk to people about it, and they were like, what are you, dude, this is a you problem. And I realized, oh, like they're like, well, how are you gonna feel about yourself if you do this? And I was like, I'm actually gonna feel bad because it's not empowering. I'm literally being reactive, right? This is not active. This is reactive to a feeling I don't like, which is feeling vulnerable. Anyway, so those are my thoughts. I actually could keep going. There's stuff I want to say about Laurie's character, and actually I really would love to do a part 2 on her experience filming this as a mother. I think it really says a lot about motherhood, and especially in the United States, and how much our country hates mothers and does not support them whatsoever. But let me know if you want to hear. Let me know if you got it this far, and please join my Patreon. I had a watch party recently. That was super fun. I'm having a live on this coming Sunday. I'll announce that very soon. I do travel content. I do all kinds of personal stories over there that I don't want to share here. And that is how I'm able to pay my bills and continue to do this. So this was brought to you by my Patreon members. And a little special shout out today to Angela, who sent me a shocking gift on PayPal. I don't know where that came from. I don't know what platform you're seeing this on, but if you're seeing this, holy crap. That made my day in every way possible. Thank you so much. And thank you for people who have ever sent little gifts like that as an appreciation. Thank you all so much. I don't expect it from anybody ever, but it's very much appreciated. Anyway, let me know if you heard the comment song and join my Patreon. This is the most common song. Look at him laying all weird. When I get home from going out to drums or wherever I'm going, he lays down on me and falls asleep like this. He's so uncomfortable. Like, look at this dog. Look at him. He's always got his little feet crossed like that. Look at this dog. Look at those lips hanging off. Old, cute. Look at that. Look at those lips, Mose. Comment song if you're new. Here is when I sing random stuff at the end of the video, so you can write something. But it's a little distracting, right? Because it's a cute dog. Anyway, Mose comment song. Mose, and his long toes. Mose comment song. Look at this baby looking over at Anthony like, hey. Anyway, comment song. I hope you like this video.